And it simply says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall do all your work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall not do any work, and so on. God is giving us a boundary here. Remember the Sabbath day. You have 6 days for yourself, 1 for me. So you can work these times, rest this time. Very important boundary. When we think about our lives, how much we need that rest. And it's interesting, as you talk to other people, they mightn't agree that Sabbath is the time to come to church, but they agree that 1 day out of 7 needs to be as a rest day. God knew that right from the beginning. God has also set some boundaries on money. In Leviticus 27, and verse 30. And it helps to find the right book. Leviticus 27 and verse 30. Talking about what we're to do with our money. And all the tithe of the land, whether of the seed or of the land or of the fruit of the tree, is the Lord's. It is holy to the Lord. He is telling us that there is a part of our income that is His. There is a boundary, it is mine. You can do what you like with that 9/10. The 1/10 is mine. We're to bring it into the storehouse. Malachi, that little book that's hard to find just before the New Testament. In Malachi 3 and verse 10. Malachi 3 and verse 10. Bring all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house, and prove me now in this, says the Lord of hosts. It is not our responsibility to worry about what happens to the tithe. Our responsibility is to follow what God has said and bring it to the storehouse. Those that are in charge of the storehouse then answer to God if it's not dealt with properly. But there is a boundary there. Our money is, we have this amount is God's. A boundary set around that. You could ask the question, why do we need personal boundaries? Why do we? We think about another instance in the Bible. Come with me to Job 1 and verse 10. Talking about a boundary or a hedge. Job 1 and verse 10. And Satan is talking to God, and he's accusing God of protecting Satan in a way. But what does he say to God? Have you not made a hedge or a boundary or a fence around him, around his household, and around all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. God has actually put a boundary or a fence around Job. Can he do the same for you and I? Of course he can. And we need to look at how we can help God put those boundaries around us. So what's the purpose of having boundaries? Listen to this quote. The purpose of having boundaries is to protect and take care of ourselves. We need to be able to tell other people when they are acting in ways that are not acceptable to us. A first step is starting to know that we have a right to protect and defend ourselves, that we have not only the right but the duty to take responsibility for how we allow others to treat us. Did you get that? It's our responsibility to put things in place so that others don't walk on us. And I guess what would be good is if we look at some of the symptoms that arise to tell us that there is a boundary or a lack of boundary problem in our life. What are some of these things that will indicate to us that maybe we need to look at our own personal boundaries? The first one is depression. Now, there are other reasons why people can be depressed, but why are people depressed, or what can lead to depression? A boundary of not putting up a defence and saying, no, I've taken enough, I'm not going to listen to that, I'm not going to put up with that. So depression can be an indication that there is a boundary problem. Resentment. If I'm resenting what you are doing to me all the time, or my spouse or someone in the church, then why am I allowing this resentment to build up? What causes that resentment? What about rage or anger problems? Now, we don't have rage or anger problems in the church, do we? We wish. We're human, and rage and anger are problems. But ask ourselves, if we have a rage or an anger problem, what is it that is setting that anger or that rage off? Do we need to work out some sort of boundary around some action from somebody else? What about obsessive compulsive problems? Why am I always washing my hands? We had a visitor come to visit us through the week, and we were talking about a mutual friend that we knew years ago, and this lady would always follow the kids around the house. The moment a little bit of mess was made, she'd be cleaning it up, and it used to drive us to distraction. Here were our kids, messy and untidy, and playing with her kids, and it was bedlam. And she'd say to them, okay, or they'd want to play with something else. That's fine, pack away what you've got first. There was never allowed to be more than one toy or one thing out first. What was going on for her? What is going on for her? Is there a boundary problem? What about with relational things? There are symptoms too that we can look at there. Do you have loss of freedom, or somebody that is controlling you directly? Or are you in a manipulative relationship where you're always being manipulated to do what the other person wants? Maybe there's reason to set some boundaries there as well. And just functional symptoms, the inability for someone to complete a goal or a task. How difficult is it to just complete a task for you? We all get distracted, I know, and we have great ideas, but are you continually not completing things? This is a problem I face. I get great ideas and I get going with it, but then I get sidetracked onto something else. Do I need to look at my reasons why I'm doing that? What about extreme disorganisation? Anyone disorganised? I'm the only one? No? Okay, thank you. Yeah, disorganisation. Is that a case of needing to set some more boundaries? What about energy levels? How are your energy levels? Mine today are very, very low. But then I had a visitor last night when I was preparing this, and he didn't go home till 9:30, 9:45. And so there can be reasons why our energy levels are low. But if we're continually running on empty, and we feel as though we're burning out, maybe we need to look at where to set some boundaries so that that doesn't happen to us. Are we any good to God if we are burnt out? No good at all. What about problems of concentration? How difficult is it for you to concentrate this morning on what's happening? We can concentrate for a certain period of time, but do we have a problem with concentration? And I guess as we get older, it's easy to nod off to sleep instead of really concentrating. And Leonie, you can smile. Yes, as we get older, it's not as easy to keep focused. But if we are continually having problems here, maybe we need to look at the reasons why and see if we can do something with our boundaries. Without personal boundaries, what is life like? It's very chaotic. We don't have anything to train us into where we want to go, nothing to lead the way of where we want to go or where we want to be. We seem to be running here and running there, getting nothing done, just wearing ourselves out, running around in circles. Feel like that? Boundaries help us to have a balance in our life. And the Bible talks about this balance in a slightly different way. Come with me to 1 Corinthians 9:25. 1 Corinthians 9. And verse 25. We'll read verse 24 as well. Do you not know that those who run in a race all run, but one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may obtain it. And everyone who competes for the prize is what? Is temperate in all things. What does it mean to be temperate? What does that word temperate mean? Simply to exercise self-control. We need to have self-control or a boundary there. We need to make sure that we know what we're doing. We're not overdoing things. So whether it's in relationship, sport, exercise, church work, our normal work, our money that we spend,